So good morning, everybody, and a really warm welcome to this Contact Online Learning session in partnership with Bolton Parent Carers, Sheffield Parent Care Forum and Lamplight. So we really welcome you all here today, and for any of those who might be watching the recording later. So again, hello, and my name's Lisa Aldred. I'm Parent Carer Participation Advisor at Contact. I currently cover the North West and Yorkshire and Humber regions. I've been working for Contact for about 3 years now, and I'm also part of my local Parent Carer Forum. I have a keen interest in how digital platforms can help improve and make easier our day-to-day lives in forums. So I really hope today you find today useful throughout this session. And I'm going to hand you over to Nan now.
Hi, I'm Nan Cooper, so I'm the chair of Bolton Parent Carers, and just like Lisa, I've got an ongoing passion of trying to make life easier and use tech as much as possible. So I'll be sharing our experiences in Bolton.
Hi, I'm Juusola. I'm from the Sheffield Parent Carer Forum. I've been pretty much involved from the beginning, so for about 12 years or something like that now, and I'm one of 4 part-time paid workers. I'm also a parent of a young person with a disability.
Hi, lovely to see everybody. I'm Katie from Lamplight, and my main role is around introducing new customers and clients to our system. I do demos for people that are interested, taking you through the system and showing you how it can work. I also do support, so once you are working with us, we have a support email where you get in touch with us, and I'm one of the people that does that as well. And it's lovely to see everyone.
And thank you all for being part of this today. Really grateful. Thank you very much. So why are we here? Hopefully we're all here for the same reason and we've come to the right session. So a question that's commonly asked by forums is, what database system do you use? How do you manage your membership? Lamplight is one system that's utilised by a number of forums, but it's not the only one. There are others, but today, because there's quite a few forums that use Lamplight, we would like to go through and share that with you. So this session will walk through how 2 forums, Bolton and Sheffield, have used Lamplight for a number of years, and then Lamplight are going to give a demonstration and further information. Sheffield and Bolton are 2 very different forums, so this will help give an insight into how it can be used differently to meet different needs of different forums. So there's just a brief outline of the agenda there, just to explain that it is a 2-hour session. There will be question and discussion times after each presentation, although we will pick some up in the chat as we're going along. There isn't a comfort break, so please do feel free at any time to just go off and get a coffee or do what you need to do. And I will now gladly hand over to Nan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're going to tell you a little bit about the 2 forums that are here today and how we differ, and it's possible you'll probably identify yourself as being a little bit more one or a little bit more the other, or you might sit in the middle. So I've been chair of Bolton for many years now, probably since about 2016. We were established in 2014. We have 300 plus registered parents. That's a relatively small number, and it's due to the fact that when GDPR came in 2018, we actually decided to wipe our entire database. Oh, back a slide. You've jumped on that. Thanks. We decided to just be completely compliant. We wiped everything we had and we started absolutely brand new. And that's when we actually bought Lamplight. We're a purely voluntary organisation. We have no paid staff. And so we use probably Lamplight probably in sort of quite a basic way. So we use it very much for keeping our database of members, and we use it very much for reporting and using the reporting possibilities within it for demonstrating the demographics of our membership, which is something that I really quite like digging into. We have, as I said, we're completely volunteers only, so everybody who's using it as well sort of has to be, trained up just on a voluntary basis. The people who maybe don't have many IT skills, and what I'll be able to tell you is that's nice and easy for them. And we've used Lamplight, as I said, since about 2018 when we became all compliant with GDPR. Eva.
Right, okay. In Sheffield, we've been going since 2008. So from the very beginning, through aiming high for disabled children. We have over 2,400 members. Most of them are families, but we also have an associate membership scheme. So we have about 300 practitioners and professionals who are associate members. That's included in that number as well. We've been a registered charity for about 10, 12 years, something like that. And we are quite a well-funded forum, so we've had a service level agreement with our council for the past 12 years, which has obviously helped enormously and has allowed us to employ our own staff and have an office space and so on. So I'm one of the 4 part-time paid workers. And I'm also the main administrator for Lamplight, which we've been using for about 10 years now. So quite a long time. And I must say, I haven't really tried any other CRM system, so I can't really compare, but I'm really happy with Lamplight. So I think I'm going to share my screen now. Just a second, bear with me. So I'm going to go into the PowerPoint. Okay, I hope everybody can see that. So for me, one of the main benefits of having Lamplight is that it allows us to integrate the membership form on our website with the Lamplight system. So when somebody goes on our website and fills in the membership form, the data they enter goes directly into Lamplight, which is brilliant because it means I don't have to type it all up myself, which I used to have to. That was a nightmare. So I'll just nip out of here and go onto my web browser. I hope you can see that still. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is what the membership form on our website looks like. We have various membership forms. This is the one for full members, so parent carers. So we ask them for their, contact details, just the usual stuff, ethnic group. Then we ask them for information about their child with a disability. So we ask for date of birth, main disability. They can select only one here. Any additional disabilities, they can select various. The type of setting that child attends, so mainstream, special, IR, or home educated. They can click this button to add more than one child. And then their mailing preferences, so email list, text messaging, postal mailing list, interested in volunteering, how they'd like to take part in consultations, if at all, and how they heard about us. So all this information then goes directly into Lamplight, where I have to view it and approve it before it goes in properly, which is a very important step in between, because otherwise you might end up with quite a bit of rubbish. So sometimes people put their house number twice, and we always find that they tick the same for additional disabilities as they've selected for main disability. I think when you find that like 75% of your users do the same error, then it's probably not their error, it's yours, and you need to do something about that. So I just wanted to show you, I've done a dummy record for Hermione Granger. There she is. So what you do is, in order to find somebody's profile on the database, you just start typing in the name and then it will pop up. So this is what it looks like on our database. So we have various tabs at the top. So contact details, what they've entered for their contact details. We don't use relationships anymore. Personal details has ethnic group, and that they've given us consent to store their data. Child information, so what you've seen on the membership form, main disability, other disabilities, date of birth, and what type of setting they attend. Mailing a membership, so their preferences for how they would like us to contact them, and the date when they join, that's generated automatically. And I'll get to work records later. So I'm going to go back into the presentation. So for me, one of the really nice things about Lamplight is that all the fields are completely customizable. So it's really flexible. You can call them whatever you like. And that was the main attraction for us when we set up the database. The integration with the membership forms on the website was done when we built the website. So I can't actually tell you how much it cost because it was all part of a package. I do remember it wasn't that easy. There was quite a bit of toing and froing between our website developer and Lamplight. But I have to say that was 10 years ago, and it might have got easier since then. In order to be able to integrate the membership forms, you have to have the publisher module, which costs £72 a year, and that includes VAT. And that is in addition to the core module, which you have to have anyway. So I think Katie will talk you through the pricing structure in a little while. Obviously, it saves lots of typing. And like I said, you still need to go in and approve the new applications that have come through. One thing that's really super useful is there's a duplicate search and compare function, because we find that lots of people register more than once. So they might have become a member a couple of years ago, never ticked email list or post mailing list, so never heard anything from us, and then they join again a couple of years later. So Sheffield's a big city. There might well be people who have exactly the same name. So the search and compare function allows me to bring up profiles of people with the same name and have them side by side, so I can actually see, is this the same person or is it not? And there's usually a giveaway like the mobile phone number or email address or child's date of birth, so I can say, okay, that is the same one. So I delete the old record. So I keep the database nice and tidy that way. Okay, so that was about profiles. Another really useful function in Lamplight is the diary function. So this is just a screenshot of what my diary looked like at the end of November. So I log everything I do. We have various work categories and subcategories, and they're color coded. So that's why there's different colors. It's very similar to making an appointment in your Outlook diary if you use that. And I'll show you how I do that in a moment. The very nice thing about it is I can log not just my own work, but I can also add other people to work records. And that allows us to have a complete record of all our activity, everything that everybody has done. So I'm going to nip out again and go into Lamplight and show you how that looks like on the diary. So this is diary for this week. Here's our session. So just create a record. So I just use my mouse to draw up a rectangle like this. And then I say I want to create a work record. And this is the time I've just drawn it up for. And these are work areas that we've created ourselves. So let's say I've done some conference planning. So I'm going to go into general admin and click event management, because that's the category and subcategory that I use for this kind of work. Then I'll add Hermione, because she attended this session with me as a volunteer. So here's Hermione, and I can say in which role she attended. So I'll say volunteer, because that can be quite useful for reporting. If, for example, you want to have separate reports on ordinary members and volunteers, if you don't want to have them in the same report, that kind of thing. I can even run a report on people who were no-shows at events, should I want to penalize them in the future. So that would be I did not attend. And then I usually add something like conference organization, and then I save it. So it is now here, conference org in my diary. But since I've added Hermione, I can now also go into her record, and it will have appeared in her work records. So that's quite useful if you want to look up a member and see what have they attended in the past. Did they go to a Makaton session or whatever? All the work that they've done or all the events they've attended will be logged here. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my presentation. So, so this logging all these activities is really, really useful for reporting. So for example, all our staff use Lamplight to log all their work hours. And you can break this down into subcategories like I've shown you. And that's, for example, we have some 0 hours workers who work on specific projects. When they log their work, we can then run a report at the end of the month, and that tells us exactly how many hours they've worked, and we can use that to calculate their salary for that month. We can also run reports on specific activities. So for example, a local authority might want to know how many of our members attended our events in the past year. So we can tell them exactly that. It's literally just the click of a button. And I'll show you that in a minute. And we can also report on the member characteristics. So for example, a breakdown of our members by their child's disability, age group, postcode area, ethnicity, and our local authority asks us to do an annual report that compares our member characteristics with the characteristics of the wider parent carer population in Sheffield as a whole, which is useful for identifying where we have areas of underrepresentation that we might want to target, for example, through outreach. So I'll just show you a work report in Lamplight. So I go to reports, work report. I might want to know what I spent my time on in the last 12 months. So I set the time frame here, last year. These are all my categories, so I'll just leave them as is. I want to have a report on everything. I just need to say that it's about me. And that's pretty much all I need to do here. Oh, I need to move this around. I go to next. And I want a breakdown of work areas so I can see how I spent my time. So if I run a report now, then I can see exactly what work I've done in the last year. I can sort it. So admin is definitely the thing I spent most of my time on. And if I broke that further down, I would probably say emails is the thing I spend most of my time on. But that's really quite useful, especially if you can do that for all your volunteers and staff, because then you see, this is what we spend our time on. Is that actually what our priorities are? So I find that really quite helpful. And obviously, as a worker, I need to make sure that I work my hours. I check usually at the end of the month, have I actually done the hours I'm paid to do, and do I need to do more? Another thing, I'll just use this setup. So for example, I mentioned that our local authority might want to know how many parents attended our events in the past. So I'll use the same time scale last year, and where might parents attend? They might attend a consultation, an outreach meeting, a training session, or one of the events. So here I've selected all of them, but now I want to just full members who attended, and I can select the role as a parent carer. So if I run this, run this report again, then I can see, okay, so last year we had 16 events and 9 training sessions, and these are the number of people, parent carers, who attended. Okie doke. Oops, back up again. Right, I think I'm at the end of my bit. Oh no, groups. Okay. So this is my last slide. So what's really useful in Lamplight is that you can create groups of members. So you can either create them manually, where you add members one by one to a group. So for example, I've created a group trustees that I can then use to just add all of the trustees to a management committee meeting, so I don't have to type out their names and add them one by one. You can also create auto groups. So for example, you tell the system you want to create a group based on certain characteristics. So for example, if somebody approached us and said, we have an event for parents of under 5s who have autism, can you publicize that? I wouldn't want to bother members who haven't got a child under 5 with autism. Instead, I would create an auto group with those characteristics and then export, say, their email addresses, and then email only that subset of members, which is quite nice. And I also use them to export email addresses for the email list and mobile phone numbers for the SMS list. Okay, that's my bit done. I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to Nan. Oops.
Lovely. So what I'm going to sort of follow on with there is sort of how we use that group function for our reporting in Bolton. So we don't, when we input our people at the very, very beginning, we're not quite at the point where we're integrated with our membership applications, which is absolutely something that I aspire to do one day. So that was really interesting for me to see how that works as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you how we input our members at the very, very beginning. And from doing that, being able to see how we do that, you'll kind of get an idea of then, in a way, what the kind of things are that you can actually report on. So I'm going to share my screen to go to Lamplight that we use, find the right one. There we go. Can we all see my Lamplight? What you'll be able to see as well straight away is, one of the nice things is it's kind of editable, is that a word? To sort of fit your colours as well, which is nice. These are actually our old colours before we changed. So each person's system looks a little bit different. So I'm going to walk you through how we'd add a person on. So our membership applications come through, we use Typeform as a questionnaire. That all downloads automatically onto an email, and then we just copy across from the email into Lamplight. So it's a little bit time consuming, but what we do is we sort of wait until we've got maybe 10 in one go, and then I've got a volunteer whose job it is to input. So she always prefers to do quite a few in one go as opposed to one at a time, because you get onto a little roll and it's quite nice. It's dead easy as well to just flick across the two screens with the email and copy and paste, so you're not having to worry about spellings of names. And as Eva said as well, you do tend to get quite a lot of people who just put the wrong bits in. They'll put they'll put the house number twice, they'll put all sorts of things. So I'm just going to show you what we do. So we add on a person. So I'm going to use my my mother just for fun. So we'd add in who she is. I just realised can't see down there. So there we go. So this is all set up completely that matches our membership form, and that's what we've both said, I think, so far, is that's one of the really nice things about Lamplight, is you can edit everything that's in there. So you can edit to meet all your needs. So we'd go in and we'd edit their address. So straight away we'd put a postcode in. That's a Bolton postcode. It would come up straight away. It's a little bit glitchy, I'd say, sometimes on knowing actual addresses that come up. It's not necessarily fantastically up to date, but quite often you do get the right address. We'll pop in a mobile number. We'll pop in their email address. And we'll save. So you can edit as well then straight away, contact permissions if you need to, and then you've basically got a person initially set up on the system. Now these across the top here are all the things we ask for on our forms. So we ask about the child. So again, this just absolutely mimics the membership form. So one of the first questions we always ask on everything we do is, do you actually have a child with SEND? So yes. We ask for the date of birth. So just pop anything in. We ask whether they've got an EHC plan or SEND support, whether the mainstream, special, Bolton or out of borough. We ask exactly the same ones I think that Eva's got, so they sort of meet the school census. We'll ask sort of their needs, and we ask sort of the conditions as well, maybe that they have, and we save that. We've got an option for 3 children. This is where groups comes into it. So we can add those people to a group now. So we have very sort of simple groups, to be honest, so far. They're either parent carers, the professionals, they're our steering group, or they're our sort of very small management core who do our day-to-day management tasks. And that's actually my Lamplight test email group, which is, interestingly enough, that's one that has all my email addresses in it that go to different providers. So there's a Gmail address, there's an Outlook address, so it's a good way of testing, what I'll talk about later as well. I'm going to add this parent to the parent carer group. We ask their consent over what they'd like to be able to receive from us. So on the membership form, we actually sort of explain what we might contact them on, these kind of things. When it was completed, the majority that we get currently are all online. It used to be sort of at workshops and events, but obviously not at the moment. And we talk about whether they're new members or updated members. And this is something that we were able to change recently. So the nice thing is, once you've sort of set everything up, you can still go back and change things and add extra questions in. So about a year ago, we actually changed a lot of the questions on our membership form, and to make sure that people were actually updating their old ones, because we found that we were getting quite a lot of returns from things that were going out in the post, so, you know, moved on, that kind of thing. So we actually we've done a bit of a thing recently that everybody who joins or everybody who updates the membership gets a little gift. So this was a bit of a double check that I've put in to make sure that my administrators checking whether they are duplicates or not. This is a question that I'm asking currently on a membership form to do with language, because I'm quite intrigued as to whether we just get a lot of English speakers or not who are joining up. And yes is the answer there so far. And then we ask ethnicity. So the general kind of questions on ethnicity. So there we go. So that will be inputting somebody in, and that person now absolutely exists on the system. So all those things that were inputted are basically all things that you can report on later. And they're all done completely to the way I want to report on our membership. So I'm able to look at however I want to pull out the information. And how I do a lot of work on sort of looking at our membership is I download it into Excel. So it's a really quick download into Excel. Carers. I won't do this because when I go on to the next bit, it will bring up everybody in a group. Actually, probably do it on my the Lamplight test, because that's all just me. So what I have is I have different ways of looking at those groups. I'll just show you that again, actually. These are all my very quick sort of downloads that I'd like to run. So here we've got age, all users, email, membership, parent carer dates. Now they mean something to me, they won't mean much to you, but these are really quick ways of running information. So if I want to quickly run a download that's all about how old the children are, I can just click on that. All users basically is all the user information that's on there. Email list is obviously just their email addresses. There's lots of different ways within Lamplight you can get this information out, but when I'm wanting to export it elsewhere, I have all these little things set up already, and it's really quick. Then it's just a download and an export to Excel. So this is one of the functions I really quite enjoy using, and you can really sort of get down to your nitty-gritty, which is nice. And just like Eve was saying as well, I like to really compare how we match the local area. So we've got a SEND JSNA, and I was able to really look at our membership and go, okay, so the registered members are relatively small at the moment, but actually they do match quite similar to our local profile. So that's how I use sort of groups and being able to do reporting. I'm going to stop sharing if I can. There we go. We can go back to the PowerPoint thing. Okay, so next slide. Always wanted to say that. So we use the text function as well within Lamplight. So we have the basic core package, and we've added on the communications model. And this is one of the other things that's really, really useful, that you can build it how you want it. And obviously that'll be talked about later too. So we've always just had a very simple core framework. And then last year we were able to get some money from the local authority to be able to add on some extra functionality. And basically it was during, well, actually it wasn't even last year, it was the year before, it was during the beginning of COVID. And we wanted to be able to do a bit more with texting and things like that, but we didn't have much money. So the local authority found us some money, always nice of them, which meant we were able to buy at the time a massive bundle of texts, basically. So we added on the communications module. So that's an extra £5 a month on top of our current cost. So we currently pay £312 a year for our entire package. So we get text and emails that we use within this module. And the text function provides a generic way of us texting without the need for a mobile phone. And that's really useful for us because we only have one mobile phone. And so, you know, it's not always with the person who might need to do the texting. So what we utilize it for quite a lot is things like reminders for parents who booked onto things like our workshops, where we don't necessarily want to do a personal text. We want it to be particularly generic. And actually using that as a functionality has actually increased our attendance at workshops, or it's increased our knowledge of who's going to be attending as well. I think we all probably suffer from non-attendance at things, and sometimes you just like to know who's going to be coming and who's not going to be coming. You know, absolutely don't mind people cancelling on the last minute due to family circumstances, but sometimes you just like them to know, to tell you, wouldn't you? So adding this on has been really useful. And so we send out texts. If you could go on to the next slide, please, Lisa. So this is how it looks when it goes out to a parent. So it's a bit like the ones you get from your doctors. It'll just say BPC at the top, and it's a very generic reminder. And then a link straight away with directions into sort of where we're always based. We always use the same base. and it's quite nice. It seems to have a really good responses to going into people's main text inboxes. Now iPhones like to filter out stuff, don't they? But so far so good with this one. The nice thing about it as well is that little thing that you're looking at there, so that's a template. So I actually have a dyslexic coordinator who does a lot of our sort of emails and texts and things, and so for her, she finds it really useful. I'll set up the template for her, and then she knows it's all correct and she doesn't have to worry about it, and then she actually manages doing all the texting and things like that. So for us it's been really nice, and I think we've got £1,000 I think it was from the local authority, and we're you know, dipping into it ever so slightly with our text. We thought it'd go really fast, but it doesn't. If you go on to the next slide, please. I think I've got, oh, I thought I had another one about text. You're all right, that's fine.
Okay, that's mine, I think. If I carry on now. So we don't have the communications module as an add-on for our Lamplight, because when I compared prices, I found SMS broadcast was a lot cheaper. I think they've recently hiked up their prices, so it's something I need to actually look into again. But my workflow for texting is this one. So I've created a group SMS list on Lamplight, which is an auto group. So everybody who's ticked join the SMS list when they became members is automatically added to the group. So I don't need to do that manually. So every time I go into the group, it's up to date, which is great. So what I do is I just export mobile phone numbers from this group into Excel, and then copy and paste them into SMS broadcast, which is a website that you can use to text people. And I just type my message and send it. It's really very, very easy. So the cost is 3p plus VAT per message per recipient. So basically, if I send one message just to 100 people, it costs me £3. So it's quite a cost. We don't use it a lot. Like now we use it for event reminders, which is very useful for preventing no-shows. The nice thing is you don't have a contract. You just buy credits in advance, and you can choose to receive either replies not at all, people can't text you back, or you can receive them by text to a specific mobile phone number or by email, which I love because I hate texting. So I'm much quicker at typing on my keyboard. So I can send a text out, people reply on their phones, and it goes to my email address, and I can reply by email to their phone through the website. So that's really useful. I think that's all from me.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that on the text. So ours costs a very similar amount, but when the way Lamplight interacts with the company that does the actual texting part, it's called 24X. You buy your credits with them, and it's on a sort of a sliding scale of cost. So it can be anything from, I think it's 3.8p to 10p, depending on how many you buy in one go. And you can add on that functionality to have replies into your email as well if you want to. Whether we'll be able to afford to carry on once our local authority money runs out, who knows? Or maybe just go begging back for more. So we also use the email function on Lamplight, which is something we've only just recently started using. I was using MailChimp for a newsletter, but one of the things that I found, and it's why I've started sort of having a go with Lamplight instead, was the amount of emails that land in junk via MailChimp. So it's a bit of a test so far. So it's part of the communications module, so it's all in with that same £5 with the text and things like that. One of the downsides here is that it doesn't have the same reporting as MailChimp, but part of me quite likes that, because you get a little bit obsessed with looking at those stats on MailChimp, you know, how many people opened it, how many people clicked, and you get a bit like, why aren't they clicking on my newsletter? So part of me likes to just know that it's gone and that it's entered, you know, people's inboxes, and try and not think about it after that. And that's why I have my little group set up with all my different email addresses. And every time I go to do a newsletter now, I test my little group as well. And so far, everything's always gone into the main inbox too. So the nice thing about it as well is you can filter your users a lot easier than on MailChimp. So I found that when MailChimp did some of the updates, probably about 2 years ago now, time flies, doesn't it? Because we had the free package, it was harder to just sort of narrow down who you wanted without sort of making sure you put all the information in beforehand. So what I found now is doing it through Lamplight, we can use all that group functionality to sort of be able to do communications out by email a lot quicker. If we go on to the next slide. Oh, is there can we just go on to the next one that's mine? Oh no, it's not there. If we go back, so I'm not sure if I can show you it on Lamplight without bringing up too many details. No, I probably can. I'll show you how we go into it. So we can ask to do an email. So this is the communications module. So I'm asking to write an email. So we have a subject line.
Nan, are you sharing?
Oh, I'm not sharing. I'm not sharing. Good job, you there. There we go. Is that better? There we go. So what I'm basically showing here is part of the communications module. So I'll start again on that one. Got a bit of a lag between my mouse and my clicks. So I can go in and I can say I want to do an email. There's lots of other things on here which I'm not actually utilised yet, which I'm going to try. So mailing labels, I do lots of mailing labels.
I actually use them. I use them for newsletter mail shots. Yeah, we sent out 6,000 copies of our newsletter. So for that.
I get very frustrated with printing labels on all the other systems, so I'm excited to try that one on this. Recipients, so I could put in here my group that's there. Hopefully it might come up. There we go. And that will be the same for whoever you are adding in. So if you've got your smaller groups that you want to do, so all parent carers, I could pop that in there. It's automatically going to bring people up. We have a header, so it's an old one, testing. And you can choose whether you're going to do the BCC method, so that everybody just gets a bog standard email, or a personalised one that sort of says to Jane. Because we go out to a relatively small number of people, I do the separate personalised emails. So add any attachments on. So this is where you get to actually writing your actual own email. So it's like if anybody does their own websites, it's very simple, similar to having your sort of back of house space. What we actually do is we add in a photograph. So we'll pop a photograph in there, a picture, should I say. I'm actually on a different computer to the one I normally use, so I can't show you particularly well. We'd actually add in a picture, and we'd add a link into that picture, which is really easy to do. So the pictures are all on our website that I download, and then just a link. So when it lands in somebody's inbox, they have the image straight away, they click on it, and it actually opens up as a flip book as our newsletter, which is really nice. I was just trying to do anything at the moment to get them more interactive and get people to want to open them. So that's where we're up to with that, and it's literally just a send and they're off and they're done, and they're to your group that you want them to go, and there's sort of no messing around. If we just go back to the PowerPoint, as I was saying, sort of the downside, I guess, to that is not having quite the same in-depth data reporting that you get maybe from MailChimp, but I quite like the ease of using it. It's quite nice, and so far definitely the fact that we seem to be hitting people's inboxes. I think we've gone past the screen as well there, Lisa.
Yeah, I think I had one slide there. Yeah, this is just an alternative workflow for sending emails. So we don't have the communications module in Sheffield. So instead, I use MailChimp for sending out emails to our members. So what I do is I've got a group called Email List in Lamplight, which is an automatic group which is created from everybody who's ticked join the email list when they join as a member. So it's always up to date. So I export names and email addresses from this group into Excel and then copy and paste them into MailChimp. There's an option to update your current mailing list in MailChimp. So you can just copy and paste everything and it updates it. So it takes a couple of minutes really. So I don't send that many email bulletins, maybe once a month, if that. So I have a template in MailChimp that I use for my email bulletins, and I just tick send. And like Nan already said, you can monitor the open and click rates in MailChimp, which is quite informative or depressing, depends. MailChimp's free for up to 2,000 recipients, and I've been told that then it gets really, really expensive, and we're sort of creeping up to that limit, and then we'll have to decide what we're going to do. But at the minute, it's a cheaper option for us. And like Nan said, the downside of MailChimp is that emails often end up in people's junk mail folders, unfortunately. Okay, can we go to the next slide? So I think these were just the pros and cons. So for me, it's the big pro is that it's very customizable. You can have any data fields you want. You can add functionality by purchasing add-ons later down the line. So initially, you probably just need the core module. For us, the integration with the website is a massive bonus because we have about 200-300 people joining as members every year. So that saves me an awful lot of typing. I love the diary function, and the ability to log activities and report on those activities makes my life a lot easier, especially when it comes to monitoring, when you have different funders, different grants, have different requirements. That's really useful. And I like that you can target your communications at subsets of members according to characteristics of those members. Nan.
Yeah, and for me, it's very similar. So I love the fact that you're able to build it at the very beginning to sort of meet your own needs, including all your own terminology that we use. It's really worthwhile if you are going to go down the Lamplight journey to put a lot of time and effort into that initial setup of how you want it to look. You can edit it and make changes later, but you know, I'm a fan of a big piece of paper and working out sort of what information you want on every page. I actually have another job where I work for a different organisation, and sort of when we bought it for that organisation, I sort of used the learning points from the forums Lamplight to make sure that we sort of set up the second one, probably a little bit better, if I'm honest, than the forums, because you really need to sort of think how you want everything to run. But the fact that you can do that, I think, is really, really good. Yeah, the add-on modules make it really affordable. So you can start with that really basic setup. And then once you get comfortable with it, add on the bits and pieces that you want to add up. The support's always been really accessible as well for me. So it's obviously all in this country. And, you know, everything that I've ever needed, it's always just been really quick, and emails. And it's really been very, very useful, that. I sort of built our own website through WordPress, and I do find that, you know, that's one of the downfalls. Sometimes you pop on an add-on to your website and there's nobody there to go, it's not working anymore, you know, or you pop a little question in the support box for one of the add-ons and nobody ever comes back to you. So I think it's really nice, the fact that there's actually a person who can help you with Lamplight. And this is sort of something that's really interesting too. When you go out there and you look at softwares to use quite a lot of time for a lot of different things, you're thinking, oh, that's all right, that's really affordable, I'm liking what it can do. And then it sort of says, do you want more than one user? And as soon as you want like 3 users for it, you find that you're in some massive premium package, and you think, oh, that's way out of my sort of remit now. So yeah, it's not charged by the number of actual users you have. And then you actually, as an admin, have really good control over those people who are actually using your Lamplight. So at the flick of a switch, or the click of a mouse, you can stop somebody accessing it, which is really, really useful too. You've got the ability to change people's passwords, to change the passwords for them when they forget them. You know, we have a member of staff in the other organisation who forgets his all the time, and he can't remember what he's doing, and you know, then can't find his reminders. So it's really easy just to go in and sort of set his password as, write this one down somewhere, please. So it's really nice to have that sort of functionality. You're very much in control of your own database, which I like. I think our next slide is some of our cons, isn't it?
Yeah, so I must say I struggled a bit, and I feel a bit I'm being a bit unfair to Katie from Lamplight, because they're such minor things that I've never actually raised them with Lamplight, so sorry. So one thing that I found a bit annoying is in the diary function, sometimes it's a bit glitchy. You set a certain time frame and then you go back into it and it's moved by half an hour. I don't know why, but then I correct it and then stays there. So I don't know why that is. different admin levels is really good. Nan mentioned that you can have users and you can also assign these users different admin roles. So you can have from like very basic, just able to see member names to really advanced rights to go into the back end and change things. One thing that's annoying me a little bit is that when I have like some of our workers are 0 hours workers and we don't want them to necessarily have access to all the information in the member profiles. So I've set them at quite a low level, but if I create an activity record and add them to it, they can't see that I've done that in their own diary, which creates people making duplicate records, which is a bit annoying, to be honest. But you find ways around that. And then I've already mentioned that the integration with membership forms was a bit of a hassle and it wasn't straightforward, but again, that was 10 years ago, so I can't say how it is now. So I'm really clutching at straws here, trying to find things that I don't like about it.
And it's very similar with me. It's sort of like, really scraping the bottom of the barrel for my cons. So I guess it's not great at being mobile responsive. So if you're looking at it on your mobile, it's a little bit clumsy in sort of finding information. But how often do I look at it on my mobile? Probably once every 2 months. Some of the inputting pages where you put your information in, I find if I'm ever training anybody, I have to be really, really sort of on it with, there's this save button in the bottom right hand corner that if you don't click the save button and you come out, you've not saved your information. And as I said, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. That save button's in the far bottom right. You can easily miss it. So that's maybe one of the things that sometimes I find myself just saying time and time again, don't forget to find the save button. You have to find the save button. If you go to the next screen and you not press the save button, it's not there. It's just a little way off. I mean, it's tiny. And if you're not the kind of person that really has your head set round what you want from that database and everything to start off with, I suppose the thought of the process at the beginning of setting it all up might be a little bit daunting. However, Lamplight can assist with that, can't they? So you don't necessarily have to be the person doing all the thinking at all. So yeah, there's not a lot bad to say about it, to be honest. And I think for one of my, the things I really like about it is it's handing over that GDPR responsibility as well.
Hi, thank you. Thanks very much, Eva and Nan, that was great. We do have now sometimes some questions. We haven't got any in the chat, so I wonder, nobody seems to have a hand up. So I just want to check in and make sure if anybody's got any questions.
Hi, this is Laura from NSPCWC. I've got a few questions that I noted down. Sorry, I didn't put my hand up. I was a little bit confused with the, I think it was Eva, just talking about so you got obviously adding kind of details about your members and things like that and what those members have attended. But you also talked about adding like the work records for kind of staff as well. And that I was really confused about how.
Okay, I'll just try and explain that again. So there's a diary.
In your diary, do you have to put it, and how does that link with your own diary? Like if we use Google, for instance, I didn't really.
It doesn't link. It doesn't.
Right.
You actually can, Eva. There's been a new. There's been an update.
Okay. Yeah, I think I looked at that, but it was working the wrong way around for me.
Yes.
So
that would make sense. Yeah.
So in order to so I create a work record on my own diary for things I've done, and if other people who are members of the forum have attended the same meeting, say for example I run a coffee morning and I have 7 of our members attend, I create my work record where I'm added automatically as staff, and then I add these other members who attended that coffee morning. Once I've done that and saved that, I can go into these other members' profiles and it will then tell me that they've attended the coffee morning. Does that make sense?
So it's not about, so that's more about then kind of what members have attended rather than your staff and what work they have done, like what time they clocked in, what time they clocked off, what activities.
It's both. So
okay.
I might have 5 work records for today. I might have done emails on my own. I might have done this training session, just me. I might have attended an external meeting with the local authority, just me, and then I might have done a coffee morning. And at this coffee morning were 5 other members. In that case, I add them to my work record.
Your other ones, you just add into your diary. It's almost like it's like a meeting, effectively, what you were doing for that meeting, and that would then go against your profile in Lamplight with you spent an hour today doing training or whatever it might be, and that's how it works.
Right. Yeah,
okay.
It's all in the diary, including the events that our members attend. It's the same workflow, really.
Okay. How often do you ensure your records are up to date? Do you email all your members once a year to say we've got details on you, are these correct, or how do you do that from GDPR point of view?
We could do that, but we don't. I check once a year for members whose children have reached the age of 25, and then they get an email saying, sorry, we have to chuck you out now. Here's the contact details of the local carer centre.
Okay.
And that's about it. We send out email bulletins and hard copy newsletters, and when emails bounce or newsletters come back as undeliverable, I just update it manually.
Right, okay. Right, I've got some other questions, but I think they'll probably be more for Katie, so I'll wait for that bit. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. We've got some questions in the chat that I'll read out. One just links with what you've just said, so I'll pick that one first. And that's, does it link with Outlook Diary?
So you can create a diary feed from Lamplight to your Outlook or Gmail or other calendars. That will take, say, all your appointments and then export them to whichever calendar you're using. You can't update them in Outlook and have that go back into Lamplight, unfortunately, but any change you make in Lamplight will get updated on your other diary whenever you need to. So I use it myself for tracking when I've got demos coming up, so I can go onto my alerts on my phone, so I make sure I missed the start of a Zoom call once, and I've been paranoid ever since. So you can kind of have it exported to other places, but you can't edit it in those diaries, unfortunately.
Thank you, Katie. We have a message from Wendy. I'd be interested to know if Lamplight can be used to also enable parent carers to create and submit reports from workstream meetings.
Yes, there'd be a way that you could build something into it, because it's that kind of using the functionality that's there and adapting it to what you need. So if it was a parent carer who was one of your, say, steering group, which means that they're a user of your Lamplight, then you could have your work records or things set up so that it's inputting what you've done. So in the other organisation I use it for, we use it very much for sort of outcome setting. And so that's about us all inputting what we're doing and outcomes based work, I guess. So it's about that sort of building what you need from the system, I suppose. But I'm guessing, and this is a guess, it would be that it would have to be people who were obviously users on your system, as opposed to anybody just being able to send something in. But you have got all those different levels, haven't you, that you can utilise?
There's also a couple of modules. I'm not sure what the reports, the kind of form they take, but we have a module called evaluations. It's about questionnaires or any kind of forms we might submit, and a module that goes with that called Data Direct that can work with evaluations or with outcome stars as well. So they would then get a link to the form. They can fill it in with their responses, click submit, and it will come into their profile automatically. So it's not the same as a publishing module where you'd have the record online for them to fill out, but it would be a link they get specific to that session or to that meeting that they could then record responses to.
Super, thank you. A question from Heather. Wendy, were you happy with that?
Yes, I was. Thank you very much. I was just interested to know, because I've never really come across a system that successfully enables the forum to gather together feedback from parent carer representatives and integrate it with their CRM in a way which is confidential within the forum, but not, people who are simply not part of that group aren't able to access it. That would be a really useful.
Yeah, I would say those kind of customized links, so they get their own link to their own profile no one else would have, and then they fill out that response and that'll come back.
That's great, thank you.
Super, thank you, Wendy. Heather's asked, if a parent carer changes their address at some point after they're registered, will that automatically copy across to Lamplight? Is that from, where would they be changing it from?
Yeah, I guess that all depends on sort of your notifications at the start, doesn't it? And how you store people's. If for us now, it will be that, and that's one of the reasons why we've recently done a sort of a big thing out saying, you know, rejoin if you feel as though it's been a while or you've not been getting your stuff, because it's that thing as well. We did Christmas cards at Christmas, and you know, everyone get, you know, candy canes, chocolate coins in them and all that business. Everyone goes on Facebook and goes, yeah, lovely, thank you. And then somebody goes, why didn't I get one? And you go, well, that's either because you're not a member, or let me just check your details. That's because you've asked for nothing to your postal address. Well, I want one. We'll go back on and, you know, you have to resubmit. So we do. I think that it's not responsive in that respect, is it?
I would say you have to update that record manually. I would absolutely not want our over 2,000 members to re-register. That would be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
No, I would say that it's not automatic. You have to do it manually.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sue Stocks has asked, how easy is it to add the membership form to our website and link it to the database? Sometimes our web designer is a bit precious, so I was wondering if it was straightforward.
Well, from my experience, which is a bit out of date, it wasn't that straightforward. You do need a good web designer to do it. And then obviously any changes you might want to make to your membership application form, they need to then be relinked to the Lamplight database. So you need to be quite sure about what you want members to tell you on their application forms.
I would add to that if you want to looking at yours, Ava, it's quite kind of detailed in the details they're bringing in. We are developing kind of copy and paste widgets that are going to be kind of a simplified version of what you're doing. So you'll be able to have people just kind of copy and paste that into your website. But as I say, it will be kind of limited fields, but that could be a quick way to do it as well.
Thank you. Louise has asked, how easy could this integrate with Microsoft 365 Teams?
So the diary function is probably the main integration. Making systems talk to each other is usually a bit trickier. So for instance, as part of Lamplight, we use Lamplight to track all of our work, but we use Zoom as our kind of team discussion point, so we don't integrate that across. It'd be something to talk about. If we know how you want to do it and what needs to be integrated, we could suggest some options, but kind of just as a blanket, I would say no, the diary is the only option we have.
Thank you. Sue has asked, would we receive setup training for the database, and would that be included in the cost?
Yes, I'm going to talk about the setup options in a moment, and we'll talk about the training there. So basically the training is either additional, or you can have it built into your setup package if you go for something where we build the system for you, and I'll show you those in some detail as well in a moment.
I'd say as well, from a user's point of view, there's online, what do you call it, Katie, the reading,
the help pages are there.
The help pages, yeah, the reading things.
So really
the help pages
too.
are really good, the step-by-step as well, with like screenshots. So, you know, for me, it's always like 11:30 at night when I've decided I want to do something different. And they're really really user-friendly, and there sort of seems to be an answer for everything on those as well. So there's a lot of support there.
Thank you. Richard has commented that he thinks this will be really helpful, as with different projects that are paid at different rates due to the agreement for those work streams. There isn't a question in there, Richard, so unless you have a question, I'll move on to the next comment. That's all right. Alice has asked, Sue's query above, do you have an estimated cost that a developer would charge to integrate with a membership form?
So it's hard to estimate. I'm not sure that people charge different rates depending on kind of who they are and their expertise levels, I would imagine. We do have a list of people we've worked with previously, so we can send that to you if you need kind of a first point of contact with developers when you get started.
Thank you.
As I say, we have those widgets too, if you just need to kind of simple things, and those will be just part of the publishing module cost.
Thank you, Katie. Dawn has asked, we currently have a shockingly unupdated database in MailChimp we've inherited. We're in the process of reclaiming our domain name for a website. We use SurveyMonkey for questionnaires. Sounds to me like this is something which could replace all of the issues we have of a small management team spread across the county. If money was no object, what can't it do? I'm not sure what the question is in that one, but maybe Dawn?
You want to book you in for a demo, Dawn?
Kind of quite really. We've emancipated from our host. It's been fairly acrimonious. The work we've been given is minimal but shocking. So essentially, it's probably going to be easier in time, manpower and cost to just ditch everything and start from scratch. And it's kind of, we don't know what we don't know because we've always been kept in the dark. So it's like, I'm thinking big and global. I'm waving my hands around. You can't see my cameras off. But I'm thinking like the global, I can do everything. What can't it do? What is the fundamental basic that I'm going to go, oh, you know, what's its flaw? What can't it do that I need to think around?
The integration thing is something that gets kind of brought up if you are using other systems already, then kind of bringing in Lamplight, you kind of have to commit to using it for the functions you want Lamplight for. But if you are kind of starting from scratch, I would say we need to have a conversation probably and discuss what you do, what you want to track, and from that get an idea about if there are any shortfalls for us, what we can do, and kind of recommend the best package based on that really.
Brilliant, thanks Katie.
For me, it would be surveys.
Yeah.
So I use Typeform for surveys and I pay probably somewhere around the £20 a month mark for that. But I like it because it does so much. Like, we do quite complex surveys. We like ones that kind of will send you off in 4 different avenues depending on what you click in the very first box. We like them to be visually very, very pleasing, which is why I don't use SurveyMonkey. So I think that is one of the things I'd say that it doesn't do. But then I'm a real sort of perfectionist control freak on what things look like, so that could just be me.
Sound a bit like
you
me.
have those functions, but they don't look, they're not very pretty.
Yeah.
It sounds like me, Nan, and it's interesting. That's one of the things I hate about SurveyMonkey is it's very
It's just
bland.
so, yeah, I love the Typeform. I know we should be talking about something else here, but you know, Typeform I love because you can really personalize it with your colors and your logos. And I was training somebody new last week, and I was showing her it, and she said, "Oh, this is so lovely the way it just moves on the screen," and it's that kind of thing, which is, I think it's hard to replicate when it's not your thing, isn't it?
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. So we've got a question. Do they also help with websites? I'm not sure if you answered that before in terms of you have some people you might be able to recommend.
So, yeah, we've got a list of people we have worked with successfully before. We send those to you, but we don't ourselves develop the website part. However, as Eva mentioned, our director will be involved if there are issues. He knows the system in and out, and he'll talk to the developer and kind of make sure they understand how to build the code and how to integrate it with Lamplight as well. Okay, great, thank you. Laura's asked, can you import an attendee list into Lamplight? We use Eventbrite to create our events and pull attendee and sign up reports and then add to a spreadsheet. Would you have to enter each member record individually to say they had attended the event? So the publishing module can do that. So you can advertise your sessions online and have people log themselves on. As I mentioned, integration's often a challenge, and Eventbrite isn't something we can integrate with automatically. So it would be kind of replacing that function with Lamplight if you wanted to. Otherwise, you'd have to put the one individually into your system. Okay, thank you. Laura has asked, do you store parent carer feedback on Lamplight? And if so, how easy is it to report on this? I'm not sure if this is something that maybe Katie, you could try and cover for us in your demonstration. Yeah, absolutely, no problem at all. How we can do that.
Thank you.
Helen's asked, what is used in the background to run the queries? Is it SQL or something else? Yeah, it's an SQL system. Okay, super. Oh, I've come to the end of the questions. Super. Has anybody, oh, has another one come? Have a look. Oh, thank you, Christina. Thank you. In what we do. Thank you. Right, has anybody else got any questions? I don't see any hands up or anything like that. We are a bit ahead of time, but we can jump straight into your presentation now, Katie, if you're ready. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Super.
Fantastic. So I'll get sharing. Thank you so much, Ava and Nan, for those looks through your system. That was really helpful to see how you're using it and the kind of different ways Lamplight can be implemented. The system I usually show in demos is a demo system. So it's not set up for any particular use. It's trying to show as much as it can in a short space of time. So I'll show you some key features, but I won't dwell too much on the parts that have already been covered, just because they were shown a bit more specific to yourselves and the way that you work. Lamplight itself, just to summarize, is a web-based system. So you'll log in through your browser. The data is all held securely in 3 servers in London. It's all in the UK, and that's backed up and encrypted every night. And we keep backups for 28 days. So something does go really wrong with your data, we can roll back to a point at time and everything's recovered. It's based, as we've mentioned, on the core system, which gives you the key features you'll need. Then there are modules you can add on if you want to scale up or add different specific functions into your system. So one of those will be evaluations. So that's about feedback forms. So if I go to somebody's profile in this system, let's go to Gwen. You can see, looking at this screen, it's got a different color scheme again. You can as well have your own logo at the top left here if you want to, and your name will be at the top. And we're looking at Gwen's profile. We're seeing again a slightly different layout. When we're looking at this profile, all the features from contact details up to case view are included with the core. So they weren't being used in the profiles for some of the other systems, some of these tabs, but they are options that are available there for you to use. Things like tracking referrals, if that's important, that's built into the core, and it's very similar structure to work records. And outcomes as well, which is about tracking change over time. So that's built into your system. If you want to ask people about their mental health and well-being, to track that, general progressions, whatever you want to manage, we can either link in existing outcomes, things like WebWebs or any of the core questions you want to ask, or if you use the outcome stars, you have licenses for those, we can build those in as well, and you can track those within the system. You can also completely customize your own outcomes. As I mentioned, that is really customizable. It's one of the key features. So you can build your own outcomes. So as long as they are scores, so say 1 to 5 or 0 to 10, numbers, how many times a week do you do X? Or yes, no questions, you can build those in and then report back on the changes, either for an individual. So this, because we're in Gwen's profile, this is her change for any of these outcomes. You can also then report across your whole service to see your entire impact and see what the overall change or progression is as well. So outcomes are in the core. Evaluations is a module, that's an add-on, and this will let you create feedback forms or surveys within the system. So if I go to the bottom right here, I can click this drop down and this will show me all the surveys built in this system. But again, that will be customized to you and the questions you want to ask. So I could add this survey. It's got very similar structure to your work records. Everything's built on a similar structure in Lamplight. So you'd have your work areas, your categories, which you can then subcategorize as well. And in tab 3, this is where you'll set up your questions, where you can customize the questions you want to ask and the answers you'll allow. So you're going to have tick boxes for people to respond to, multi-select fields, they can select more than one thing if they would like, drop-down fields, open text, whatever you would like. So the evaluations module lets you build as many surveys as you want in your system. They can be as long as you like. The data direct module goes with this, and that is a module that will let you create campaigns of surveys either for your outcomes or for your evaluations. So if we look at evaluations, so you could create a campaign to say, I want to ask everyone that attended this session in the past 6 months to respond to this questionnaire. That would then generate an individual link for each person. You can then email them in a batch. So if I click on the top one here, so you can email all invitees in one go, and you don't actually need the communication modules to do this. You can set up communication within the core system, so you can have this either way. You can email people that have responded, so to say thank you, or to kind of give them results, or you can target people that haven't got back to you yet. So if they haven't yet clicked submit, that will be recorded on the campaign, and you can then target them and send out their link again and ask them politely to please fill it in. You'll also be able to report back on them. You can report as part of the evaluations module. If we look at the evaluations report, again, it's a really similar structure across all reporting. So once you kind of learn how to do something in Lamplight one way, that can apply across your whole system. So I'll just set the date range here so we get some data coming through. Again, you can filter on your work areas if you want to, or you can leave it blank. Same for groups. The main thing to choose is to make sure you have a survey selected. I've run that report. The reports here are a bit different. They will show you for each question what's the count of responses, so how many people answered each of the options you gave within that questionnaire. Then you can either extract the individual responses, so you can download them from here, or you can extract full sets of data, so you can download the whole thing as a Word document. You can have all the tables in one spreadsheet, or you can download the complete responses. So rather than having a table per question, the Excel will show you a line per respondent. So it will say Gwen said these were all her answers across the sheet. So that can give you some different ways of looking at your data as needed. So that's a module. So there are a module you can choose from within Lamplight, and that's one of the first things. Once you've had a demo with everyone that's here, I'll be absolutely happy to arrange a kind of specific demo with yourselves to go through the system and your own requirements. Normally we'd have a demo. We'd then ask you to choose the modules you want to start off with. So I'll just find that here. So we have a full list of modules on the system. Here we go. So you can choose whichever ones of these you like. They're all £5 per month plus VAT on top of your core system, which is £15 per month. And as was mentioned, that's not license based. That's for any number of users, up to 100 full-time active users. So even if you have 200 people listed, if they don't log in at the same time, it's absolutely fine. So we have a complete list of modules here. If there are any questions specific to these, I'm happy to go through them. But I'll also send these links, actually. I'll put them in the chat so you can go through them as well. And we can look at how they work. So, put my tabs in the wrong order. So once you've chosen, so we have the pricing is all on the website. The pricing is always transparent. There's no hidden costs. There's no annual user fee or anything. You just pay your hosting fee plus the modules, which are all £5 per month. Another cost to think about is potentially the setup of your system. So if you do want us to build a system for you, we have a number of packages you can choose from, and they range from no upfront costs. That's where we'll give you a blank system and you can go in yourselves and do all the admin to customize your fields, your work areas, anything you want to do, you can build that yourselves. The downside there is there's no inbuilt support beyond the text and video support that's in the help pages. That's often fine for people if they're kind of quite confident with databases. So that is an option you can choose. There's also a candle option. That's £600 plus VAT, and you do get a Lamplight person assigned to you who knows the system really well. They'll be able to give you some advice, but you will still do the building of the system yourself. So that's an option if you would like to choose that. Starting from £1,800 plus VAT. With any of these packages, you'll get a Lamplight expert implementer assigned to you who will work with you through a workbook. And in that workbook, you'll think stage by stage about how you work. The first stage is about your security, who can log in and when, GDPR requirements and compliance, get you to think about that. Second stage is your processes. That's normally the longest stage. All your processes, all your forms, write that all down for us, and we will talk you through that, through with you, and then build the system based on those requirements. The last stage is reporting. So things like having pre-built template reports or making sure that we make everything in the system will support your reporting is the last stage of the setup process. Once your implementer has built the system, they will give you a tour of what they've built, show you everything they've done, and you will then get access to test the system before you sign it off. So you can go through, you can put in pretend data, run through some kind of your processes, how you might put in real data, and then that can throw up issues. So if you think actually we need this field moved, we need something that's missing, you can tell the implementer and they'll fix it all before you sign it off. And that's when you'll pay the full balance of your setup. And that's also when we'll schedule in the training. So with any of these packages, there is a combination of bespoke training, so training in your system once it's built, and bite-sized training sessions, which you run weekly on set topics in a training system. So with the bespoke training, so with Lantern, for instance, you get one session for up to 4 people, and that's 2 hours long. With Spotlight, going up to kind of our most popular package there, is 6 2-hour sessions, again for up to 4 people per session. You also get the access to the bite-sized training, which you can just send people to whenever you want to. We have a record of how many sessions have been used, so you can just send people whenever you like. With each package, you also get included 3 hours of bespoke support. And that isn't for just quick questions. If you do just think, why isn't my report working? I can't find the help pages, something that's not working, you can just drop us an email. We'll be really happy to get back to you. We have a team now. There's 4 or 5 of us normally in the inbox looking at kind of issues coming in to respond to you within 2 hours. If it's going to be more complex, we will book in a Zoom call or a phone call to kind of cover that, maybe screen sharing or logging into your system. And if it's going to take longer than, say, 10 minutes to resolve, maybe you need to have something more say a feature request that you need to have built into your system, we talk you through in a bit more detail, something like that, we would then start to use this time. This can also be used for technical changes to your system. So if you think actually after 6 months, this tab needs to be moved, this data's in the wrong place, you can let us know. And again, we'll use this time to move the data to where you need it to be. If you can't do that yourself within the system, we'll use that time. The way to think about the packages that might be right for you is on this web page. Essentially, the lantern is if you just want the core system and no modules to start off with. It's a fairly straightforward system. There'll be plenty of time there to go through all your processes, but there's no modules, no extra projects, which are separate but connected systems in Lamplight. So if you're doing, maybe you're doing therapy as part of your work as well, and your therapists, sorry, your normal staff shouldn't access the therapy data, you can then have that completely separated if you want to. Most people have one project, but the other options are there. Torch is best if you start to add a couple of modules. So say you want to start with communication, so you can send out those emails. We could have that. We'd then be looking at the Torch option for that because there's a bit more setup to be done to make sure it's all right for you. Spotlight is if you want lots of modules. So say you want to start with as many modules as you can, or you just kind of want to start with a good handful or more than one project. We'd then be looking at the Spotlight, just because again, that does have more inbuilt support time for you to be able to, for us to be able to kind of understand you and how your system works, and the building time as well to make sure it's all covered. But beyond that, it's up to yourselves which package you go for. If you're kind of between Torch and Spotlight, that does happen quite often. We can give you advice. You can also purchase additional training packages if you need to or want to have more training for your staff as well. We do have a brochure about the customer journey. So if once you do sign up, you've had your demo and you're happy to go ahead, this is going to outline that process I mentioned. So your consultation, the build period with your implementer, the feedback period where you have access to your system. This data migration actually is an additional potential cost. So somebody mentioned starting completely fresh with their system, excuse me. For that, there'd be no data migration cost at all because you're starting over. If you do have a system you're moving from where you do have historical records, we offer a data migration service. If you're just uploading names, addresses, personal details, there's a free upload function for that. You'll just see the CSV file in Excel with all your details laid out, and we'll then be able to input those. So you'll be able to input those. If you want to bring in more complex data, say existing work records, we'll then use data migration to do that. We can give you a quote, but the cost is £48 per hour plus VAT. So obviously it can be quite flexible depending on how much data you have and how many spreadsheets it's in currently, how many different formats it's in. If it's in one system, that's going to be fairly straightforward for us to manage. Any question at this point? I'll just have a look at the chat, bear with me.
Not yet, no.
Can I just ask, sorry, this is Laura from NSPCWT. How often do you update the system? So how often do you have yearly updates?
We do. So it's a system that's still being developed and is live. Our technical director created Lamplight in 2004, I believe it was, and he is still working on it, making those developments. So whenever there's an update, if it's something in the background, so say we're just upgrading the servers, there will be no impact to yourselves. We'll do that overnight and that will just happen. If it's more substantial, so a couple of years ago, we changed the way system admin looks in some key ways. For that, we'll put a notice on the login page to let you know a change has happened, and we'll organize a free webinar so we can demonstrate the changes for you and you can kind of tune into that to get the key upgrades. But mostly they'll be in between. There might be something we just tweak, kind of how something's going to work. Maybe there's an extra button we've added, and we'll put that on the login page so you can see all the most recent updates there as well.
Okay.
And there's not a cost to you for that. That's just always rolled out to us.
You're just always kind of,
yeah.
And if, for instance, obviously you have a view of all the various instances of Lamplight. If one user, for instance, has a great idea of how the way they use it, is there any option that you'd roll that out across all other instances?
Absolutely.
Or, okay.
So yeah, basically we're very, very open to feature requests and changes people might suggest. I'm trying to give a recent example, but I know we've done several of them. And actually the system admin one was because people found it a bit clunky. It could be a bit unreliable. We're very open to feature requests. And when someone suggests something we think actually that's going to help the majority of our users, we'll put that out. But again, there'll be no cost for that. We'll just roll it out.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Fantastic.
We do have another question now from Rachel. I currently have groupings showing ethnicity. sorry, the other question jumped my chat up. Showing ethnicity, needs of families Act. Would this be included in the free data upload, or will this detail be extra?
I think that will just be fine in the free upload. So as long as you can get that in a format where you've got names in one column and then a column for ethnicity, column for needs, you can then import that, because what your implementer will have done is already built those fields into Lamplight. So when you upload it, the upload can match this field in this column is this field in Lamplight, and we'll just populate those in a group.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll pop some links into the chat now so you can go through those.
We do just have another question that's come
yeah,
in.
please.
Jonathan, I missed the beginning. Does this system create surveys that can be sent out to unlimited amount of people?
So that will need 2 modules. It will take evaluations and data direct. So if I just go to these. So these 2 modules will let you do that. Unlimited is a little bit tricky because it's tied to your own email address. So using this system, you have a limit on how many emails you can send per day and per minute off with Outlook or Gmail. We have a built-in feature that will let you create batches. So we'll try and send emails in batches of 100 at a time. That means it can generally try and get around that limitation. But depending on how many it is, that may then run into problems with the email provider itself. So that's something where usually MailChimp would come in. We would recommend at that stage. And the benefit with the modules is you can create your list or batches of people to target in one go. So if you're not sending it to your entire parent carer base, if you're just saying, I want to look at this particular set of people, that then won't be limited because it'll be a smaller group, but it's kind of up to yourselves how it's run.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Richard has a question. If we need additional fields later, would it be best to set up the systems initially with a couple of spare empty fields?
I would say not to do that. So there won't be any empty fields, but what you will have is a full system admin access. So whenever you need to build in new fields, you'll have control of that. You won't have to come to us, or you can do, but it's kind of entirely built into your own system. So I'm logging in now as an admin. So I've got a bit more permissions in the system to make changes. So if I go to the admin page here and system admin, so say you want to put in a new field for your users, you want to be able to track something new, you can scroll down. These are all the options you'll have access to. So you have a lot of control over your own system. I just scroll down to the right area. So under manage custom fields and drop down lists, and under people and organizations, this is where you can customize your own profiles. So I go to manage custom tabs and fields in profiles. This will then give me a screen that's going to show me every tab that's customizable, and then within that tab, those tabs, every field you can change. So if you want to bring in something new, I can click on personal. And so, for example, here we have the ethnicity field already created. But if I can, at the top, I can click add new field. And this will then let me create any new field I want whenever I choose. So you put in your field name. You can put in placeholder text if it's a text field. You can assign the field to different people. So it could be a field that's specific to volunteers. If it's DBS information, for example, you could build it in there. And then you can choose your field type. So the kind of field it is you can choose here. Very flexible again. You can choose select boxes, drop down fields, text areas. You just create it here and save. And then once that's in your system and you save at the very top, and it will remind you to make sure you have saved it, that will then appear in your profiles.
We actually added on some extras last year. So we added a couple of extra questions on our membership form, and it was dead easy just to add those on. And you just get blanks for the people who hadn't put them in previously, and the new people you can tell because they've answered those questions. So it was really easy.
Super. We do have Jonathan has his hand up. Do you want to ask your question, Jonathan?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Do I have to put my video on?
You don't have to, no.
I prefer to. I just can't. I'm hovering over more and it just keeps taking it away from the video, but maybe I'm just... Oh, here we go. Here we go.
There we go. Hello.
Can you see my face now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God help you all. I don't want to be an agenda bender because I've got quite a lot of questions. So I didn't know if I needed like to see the teacher after, perhaps. Is that better if I do it that way?
Well, I suppose it depends what your questions are, because you can book a personal demo as well afterwards.
maybe it'll help people, or maybe I'm like a million miles behind a lot of other people, and you're all like, you know, whatever. We're starting from scratch, and I want to run lengthy surveys and get data from that. Not lengthy surveys, high impact surveys. I kind of want to. This data system looks really good. I just kind of trying to work out how the survey provision, if you like, would talk to it. I came late because I were in another meeting, so I do apologise if I'm going over.
No problem, Jonathan. Katie, do you want to just go over the survey? And
yeah, no problem at all.
Jonathan's question in the chat was about does it integrate with SurveyMonkey?
Right, so no, it doesn't integrate with SurveyMonkey. So you'd be creating your own surveys within Lamplight, and that will take a couple of modules to do. So if I go under activity, I can add a new, we call them evaluations, but you can rename them. Everything in Lamplight can be renamed. So I could have a satisfaction survey, for example. Yes, I have saved. And then that will let me create the questionnaire that I want to log into the system. So doing it this way, you might have done it on paper with somebody and you're logging the responses. So you put in the area of work it relates to, you log in a respondent, so you put in a person's name here, so who's being questioned. And then tab 3 is your survey. This is what's customized. So in the system admin, you'd have a similar setup of questions and possible answers you set up in your system. You can then complete those responses here. And that will get saved to the individual's profile. So you can kind of go back and look at their responses. So this is kind of fixed questions you're going to ask. So say surveys or feedback forms, you'll build those in. There's a module that then works with this to replicate the sort of SurveyMonkey function, and that's called Data Direct. It works with both evaluations as the module and outcomes as part of the core. And that will let you create a campaign for your survey. So you would design a web page for that survey to appear on. You can do some limited options around designing it, some colors, some kind of text layouts, and then you can use those campaigns to target specific individuals. So you could say on this survey, I want to only question everyone that's in this age bracket or this particular gender, this ethnicity, or that we've seen in the past 6 months. And we want to kind of ask them how they found the services. You can create that list, assign all those people to the campaign, and then within the campaign itself, if I choose view full details, this gives you the summary of that campaign rather than the survey. It's going to show you what the web page is set up to look like, and kind of oh, it's not very well in this demo system, unfortunately. So this one. So it should give you a summary. I'm sorry, I don't know why that's not working. I think that might be my internet is struggling today. But it will give you a breakdown of who's responded and who hasn't responded. So in a table, you can see, have they completed their outcome yet, their evaluation yet? And then you can choose to email all those people in one go. So you can say, you haven't yet completed your survey. Could you please go to this link and do it? And everyone can either get a customized link to their survey, so it comes back and it's linked to an individual, or an anonymous link. So when they fill it in, everyone gets the same link and it comes to your system and you can report overall on your data rather than on individuals.
I think from a perspective where I'm coming from, we are literally at scratch.
Yeah.
We've got
so
no
it's more about gathering data to input, so kind of saying name, address.
Yeah, so it's almost like we need something that people recognize that generates the information that then this is the backup to then start getting the data. So for instance, this appears to be like based on already having quite a lot of information about people, i.e. At a minimum their email address. What we're looking at is trying to generate a code so we make sure the people who survey are actually Barnsley Send parents. And then from that first big event, that I need that system that we use there to talk to exactly this type of system. So I'm kind of throwing that out there in the hope that either you or someone else might have gone through that. But I'm going to shut up as well because I'm conscious it's like, you know, we're on a thing. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
That makes sense. I'm sorry, I did misunderstand you. So actually, it's what Ava showed at the beginning. So if we ignore those modules, the publishing module will let you create a link on your website. And so all the fields in Lamplight you design, so name, address, need, requirements, number of children, for example, you can have those fields shared to your website on a page that's familiar, it's your own website. They will then fill in all those details, and when they submit it, it will create a new profile within the system with all those details populated already. You do have to go in and approve them, so you'll go through and say, well, actually, this is somebody just spamming the website, get rid of that. But you'll then approve all the people that need to be in your system, and that will pre-generate all your profiles that way as well.
So technically speaking, you could take a telephone number and make a call back to them and say, hi there, you filled this in, I'm just checking in.
Yeah.
And to that end, what we covered is that, so I'm thinking I can link that website that I create via social media and they follow it that route.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be fine.
All right. I need someone to do that for me and I have money. Okay. So that's not a ransom thing. It's just a fact. Okay.
Thank you, Jonathan. Katie, we have a couple of more questions. Do you want to take them now or at the end?
No, it's fine. That's just something else I need to cover. I think I was going to kind of wrap up there anyway. So that's
super. So Laura's asked, are there fields that you cannot delete? She's used CRM before and there were fields you couldn't delete, which was quite irritating. So in the end, you had to hide them.
So there are fields you can't delete. And again, we can hide those if they are. Let me show you what they would look like. The contact details field on a profile is preset in every system and is a little bit trickier to customize. So let me just go to that for Gwen. So the contact details, all this address information, because it has, it's used in the system in other ways, so things like sending text or contact permissions being set and preventing you from emailing somebody. These are all preset and can't be deleted by default. If you don't need any of these, as part of the setup, your implementer will just put in a bit of code that will hide it from your system completely. There won't be an option and it will just be hidden that way. But yes, unfortunately, if it's something that's fixed in the system, because of the nature of it being kind of a customized off-the-shelf system, the structure's always there, but within that, there's lots of scope for flexibility.
Super. Thank you. And Helen's asked, how is the data backed up?
So it's backed up onto our servers. So those are in London. Those are AWS servers or Amazon-based servers. And we save those every night for 28 days. So if something happens in that period, we can back up to that point.
Thank you. Rachel's asked, the outcome star looks really helpful. Did she hear you say about needing an outcome license?
That's only if you want to use any licensed outcomes. So anything that's, for example, here, this homelessness star is a licensed outcome through Triangle. If you use any open source outcomes, such as WhenWebs or the core questions that are here, so Core 10 or Core YP, you don't need a license for those. We can just import the measures for you. There's other fixed ones as well. We can put in some NHS-based ones we can use. We have some presets. If you let us know which ones you use, we can give you a link and import them. The only ones you need licenses for are where you would normally have to pay to use the outcome at all. And again, to design your own is totally free. There's no cost for that.
Great, thank you. Debbie's asked, how easy would it be to add to a WordPress website?
So if you're using those, so the publishing module, if you're using those widgets I mentioned, so at the moment we have a referral widget. That's just copy and paste into your website code wherever you want it to appear. And that will then, it's all pre-built, so all that linking is already done. So that's fairly straightforward. Currently, that is the only widget we have. We're developing ones for having people create profiles like they do for the Eva system, and creating work records as well. So publishing, you have sessions coming up and having people book themselves on, and those again will be copy and paste. If it's more complex than that, you will need a web developer or someone who knows WordPress really well to be able to do those things. But we can give you a microsite that's got all the coding that person will need to go through. So that will be included as well.
Thank you, Katie. If anybody doesn't feel like the question was answered, if you can just follow up in the chat, please. And then Katie can carry on with the presentation. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I'll just pop some links into the chat so we can go through those. And if anybody does want to book a demo, so for themselves to go through their own system, and kind of your own particular requirements, this is the link for that. And then the costs for the packages are on this page, but any of these pages are accessible through the website. So please do feel free to explore that, have a look at what's on there. And if you've got any questions, come back to me. This page isn't accessible actually, so I'm going to give you this one as well. This is just the broader descriptions of the modules. If you want to go through those, if you just copy and paste these to Notepad or something similar, you can access those whenever you like.
Katie, would you just be able to send all those over to me and we'll put it in the pack when we send it out? Thank you.
and my brain's just gone completely blank. I also send you through this journey brochure. So this will tell you how, once you do sign up, if you want to go ahead with us, what you can expect and how that will all be laid out. It takes you through thinking about your processes, how kind of intensive that will be, and it breaks down to different packages as well. So we've got different options depending on kind of how much you want to go through, how much detail you have currently, whether you're starting from scratch or building from an existing system. And we'll go through all of these. I think it breaks down. So that's, I'll also send through a link with more details about these packages and kind of what that looks like and how those different packages can be used, which might be best for yourselves as well. I think that's where I was going to end. Is there anything else I can show for anybody, or any other questions I can answer?
Brilliant, Katie. And did you go through how we can put parental feedback onto the system?
Yes, I think I covered a couple of options for that. It was either evaluation, so either those modules, or yes, I think it would be the evaluations modules to be able to log that feedback. I think in most cases you wouldn't want to give your clients access to the system. You can do, there's possibilities for that with lockdown access, but I think in most cases the module will be able to let people give their feedback, log it all in, and then you can report back on what's been fed back and what people have said, and have those options available to you.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody else got any questions? I don't think anybody's got their hands up. Or Ronnie has asked, is there any way of tracking feedback?
Yes, that will be the evaluation module again. We call it evaluation, but obviously we can change the name. That's just a name that we use for kind of marketing, essentially, kind of to give us a description for the module overall. We can rename anything to feedback, evaluation, survey, whatever's made the most sense for yourselves. We can change that around, but it will have the same function.
Okay, super. I'm just going to try and go back onto my slides so we can see where we're up to. Okay. Well, so we will put all the slides together and the information that Katie sends over and the recording and send them over in the next couple of weeks. So I just want to thank everybody for coming today. Big thank you to Katie, Eva and Nan for sharing the Lamplight experiences. I hope it's been really useful for everybody. We are finishing quite a bit early, so if there are any outstanding questions, I'll stay around for about 5 minutes. But otherwise, thank you all very much and have a lovely day.